All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on LinkedIn Lunch Break. My name is Guillermo Bravo. I'm the CEO of Foot Traffic. Foot Traffic is a laser-focused dispensary advertising and marketing agency focused on compliant, scalable digital strategies that are designed to increase foot traffic and boost e-commerce sales. I come with 20 years of experience in both startup and agency environments. My passion is spearheading initiatives that drive sales, and just grow advertising campaigns in the cannabis space. And I'd like to introduce you to Wes Paschal. Wes is the CRO and co-founder of Alpine IQ. He's responsible for all revenue generating strategies, which include sales, account management, billing, operations. You're an alumni of Texas A&M and with a focus on entrepreneurship. And then you pivoted into the cannabis industry in 2018, joining Tilray and leading the company's retail investment strategies in the emerging adult use market in Canada. And then following your tenure at Tilray, you immediately joined your brother at Alpine IQ as employee number one, and you're now transforming the cannabis industry one dispensary at a time. So
Yeah,
welcome to LinkedIn Live, Wes.
appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, let's kick it off. Well, today we're going to talk about how dispensaries can up their game with SMS marketing, and why is SMS a crucial part of dispensary marketing strategy, and how can they utilize other tools to expand current marketing strategies. So I'm going to be asking you a series of questions here, Wes, and just give us your insights into SMS marketing and how valuable this is for dispensaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Cool. So first question is, tell me a little bit more about your SMS platform.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, I'm gonna kind of gut check you there, which is because SMS is a very key part of the. We always kind of joke around. We're an SMS company the way that Amazon is a bookstore. It's a really important part of what we do, but it is not everything. And SMS has proven to be a revenue driver for cannabis businesses all across North America. I mean, for the last, call it 8 years, 9 years since we first had our very first market starting to legalize, SMS has been one of the primary means of communicating with customers. And I think that's mainly because you have all of these other avenues for advertising that are restricted as one primary driver of that. All the traditional ways that you can engage on social media are much more challenging. Only recently did Google really start to allow cannabis to actually participate in the same way as other businesses. So there's been a lot of hurdles and constrictions from how businesses can actually communicate with the end customer. Side note, it's also been how cannabis consumers have purchased their cannabis for years, is receiving text messages and going through text. And so for all of those reasons, texting has been a huge revenue driver, and cannabis continues to be so. And so Alpine IQ, we often get kind of thrown into this bucket with all these other texting companies in the space. But what's really different about us is that, we came into this not as a texting company at all. And unlike many of our competitors in the space, we came into this building tools specifically for cannabis. So we didn't create a platform and then back it into cannabis because we saw how much money was in the space. We built this because we wanted to create something by stoners for stoners to make the stoner experience better. And SMS is certainly a really powerful tool in the tool shed, but we've got quite a bit of other options under the hood now.
Wonderful. And you touched on SMS and how crucial it is for dispensaries. What, I guess, to what extent, in addition, does Alpine IQ provide tools and features to give people a glimpse into other types to do direct marketing with clients?
Yeah, so I mean, we're all about giving you an omni-channel solution set. So we have had texting in the platform for quite some time. We recently just launched native email, so that's a secondary channel that you can pursue. Browser push is going to be launching within the next probably 14 days. So really excited to kind of announce that. That's going to be another way for businesses to be able to communicate, because reality is that texting is not a safe way for cannabis businesses to communicate with their customers anymore. That has become evident this year. So instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket, we are going to build tools that allow retailers to use omni-channel solutions. So push notifications for both browser push and native apps, email, texting, and then soon to be voice.
And what's the difference between all those different outreach types, like SMS, MMS, push notifications, app notifications? Like, what can you explain that in kind of high level terms?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, different consumers prefer different means of communication. So that's one kind of key piece. You know, texting has always been flaunted as, oh, it has the highest read rate, 95% read rate, and that's why it's such a driver. And email is significantly lower, and that is true. But we also have solid statistics that say that the people who convert off of email typically convert with a higher value than the average value of people who convert off of texting. And they capture different demographics. Some people prefer to be contacted through email, and the same goes for push, right? You might have a certain demographic of customer that is much more likely to download push notifications and prefer to interact with a brand through an app than someone who prefers to get a weekly newsletter with all of the different deals or new product arrivals. And what we've created at Alpine is a V1 of kind of a delivery assurance vehicle where dispensary operators can prioritize which channel is the most important to them. So if they want to come into a single software, creating a campaign that goes across 4 different channels, they can prioritize these different channels depending on which customer base they feel like they want to reach at that time. And then our future plans are to make AI optimize that process. So having a waterfall optimize omni-channel texting or campaigns and emails to different customers based on their preference. So the idea here is that each one of these channels is unique. It has a different feel to it, and different consumers prefer these different channels for different reasons. And we want to give our retailers the tools they need to be able to capture all of those customers and speak to them as individuals.
Okay. And then kind of transitioning back to SMS marketing specifically, how is SMS compliant for promoting cannabis retailers right now?
Yeah, no, compliance in SMS is always a fun question to tackle. So in the US, I mean, really what you have to worry about is TCPA, CCPA, any other state and local regulations around data management and making sure you're collecting proper consent to be able to message customers. And, I like to also pull Canada, and I don't want to just, solely focus on the US. In Canada, Health Canada law clearly stipulates that telecommunication marketing is allowed and is a very good means of communicating with your customers. And, despite being as compliant as you possibly can, right? Running TCPA compliance, CCPA compliance to the T, following Castle law in Canada. Even with Health Canada law saying it's allowed, you still have phone carriers that block these messages.
Yeah.
So even if you're following every single rule, even going beyond what the standard is for maintaining consent and customer information, businesses like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, the big phone carriers have all taken the stance that cannabis is a liability for them, and they've actively censored cannabis businesses that use SMS and MMS. And a year ago today, you could send messages over their wavelengths that had things that were pretty, you could really understand a marketing message out of a text. And today, that's just not the case anymore. Alpine IQ, along with every other SMS provider in the space, have all released updates to our technologies that help sanitize messages so that they don't get censored the way that they would otherwise. And it's because cannabis customers are just hungry for information, and as long as the businesses that like Alpine are providing SMS solutions or maintaining proper consent and data management for these customers, I don't. From a consumer perspective, it breaks my heart that censorship happens the way it does. But we're here to help. We're here to give retailers other channels to communicate, because texting is not necessarily safe anymore for cannabis.
Yeah, and we've noticed it ourselves with running push notification campaigns historically the last 4 years, and they've been effective. And I would say they remind me of email marketing a little bit. We send similar messages. It's not the we're not promoting products and sales as much. We're promoting content. We're getting people into top funnel, and we're not. It's just different campaign types and objectives, right? So you have different goals with an email versus an SMS versus a push notification. Maybe with a push notification, you want to get people back in the app and just back to browsing the shopping cart and seeing what deals are available. So it's just being aware
Proactive.
of proactive, and aware that it's not a cookie cutter approach. It just depends on each location, what your goals are, what your audience wants, most importantly, right? Like, what are they responding to? And if you have e-commerce attribution in place and everything in place, and you're able to see how effective and text was versus a push notification versus an email, and you'll be able to show a return for each one. So
yeah, I mean, like you said, it's strategizing based on your customer, and talking about how different people prefer different methods of communication. When you have multi-state operators with enterprises in a number of different markets, a number of different consumer types, they may be trying to communicate with all of those different people in different ways. And so that's why we give people these tools, is to say that not every person wants to be texted. And then the frequency of messaging also changes on a market by market basis. So we really want to use data to allow the retailer to understand those customers' differences, to be able to spot them and then speak second. So we always talk about what makes Alpine IQ different: listen first and speak second. Really looking at the data, understanding the customer before you speak. And that's why we don't offer texting only packages for using the platform. We want retailers to look at the data before they speak.
Yeah, and on that, can you tell us a little bit about your predictive behavior filtration and your audience designer features?
Yeah, absolutely. So segmentation is the foundation of our system. We want retailers to segment as much as possible to be able to understand their consumer, because we provide analytics on that segmentation tool set, and then also to speak to them as individuals. So predictive behavior, we can target outliers using machine learning and try to convert people into purchasing categories that they may have never purchased in the past. So we've had a couple of $1 billion worth of cannabis revenue flow through our system. And now we have seen our machine learning catch outliers like likely to buy concentrates. And it will have different people in that audience than has purchased concentrates. The reason being is that the machine learning has identified that high enough value flower buyers, if they continue to purchase large amounts of flower for long enough, will eventually convert into being concentrate buyers. And so by using that in your marketing strategies, you can kind of get those cross sells and pull people into a new category of purchasing that they may not have otherwise had. It also helps limit spend on text messages that may go to people who came through one time, signed up, and then moved to Connecticut or some other state that hasn't fully set up a market yet. And so we have machine learning like likely to return soon, that targets people who haven't been to the store in a while, but their purchasing behavior shows that they're a consistent enough customer. And by targeting those users, you're not wasting text messages on those people who are tourists.
No, that's a great point. You don't want it can be quite expensive sending text messages if you're just doing the spray and pray approach, which isn't always effective. I mean, I've always been a promoter of give people what they want. You're not going to message a flower user edible deals. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, make sure it's relevant. It's what they want based on their behaviors, whether you're pulling from the shopping cart or through your machine learning. That's a key part in reducing the total number of messages too. It's just
and those different consumers prefer different frequency of messages. So your heavy flower and concentrate buyers are shopping much more frequently. Many times they have a higher purchase frequency and have a higher tolerance to more frequent messaging. And you look at different markets, like Canadians in general want to be texted less than Americans do, generally speaking. And then you even look at differences between West Coast and East Coast. We've got we can see on the East Coast, the concept of daily messaging seems to be a lot more prevalent than places on the West Coast, which is kind of interesting because it's actually a lot more of an immature market today than other markets. So we're constantly looking at this and providing this data back to the retailer so that they can look at their average days between purchases of different customer segments and then adjust their marketing strategies for those groups.
Yeah, with that being said, what's the sweet spot? Like, how often should you be texting your users? I know you don't want to overdo it, but you still want to stay top of mind. Like, how do you find that right balance?
There's it's such a broad question, right?
Yeah.
There's not a specific sweet spot that covers the whole country or whole continent, right? Like I said, people in certain markets like Maryland seem to have a really high preference for those daily messages about everything in the store. You can see companies that really have done a fantastic job of giving their SMS and email personality, a voice, something that, I think of Wendy's and the Twitter world, that they really gave themselves a personality and have stuck to it for years. And I think that there are examples of cannabis operators that are doing the same. And so I think it's less about frequency, because I think, quite frankly, you're going to have different frequency in every market and with different customer types. And it's more about really giving the retail brand a voice, because that's what we're trying to do. Is you've got 7 to 9 minutes on average that a customer is in store to really convey your brand narrative, understand who they are as a consumer, and then provide them the product that they need and want, to send them on their way with a happy experience that's memorable. That's not very much time. And with all of these different rules on what you can and cannot say and what channels you can and cannot use and how you can use them, having that interaction after they leave the store that really is interactive, that is almost a one-to-one experience, that's what you're going to see create a market defining type of retail experience in the cannabis world, is really diving into that level of granularity. So I think when I look at what's the right amount, I think about really what's the right voice, like who is resonating with their customer base and has found their personality and has that match their primary customers.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. No, I had something there and lost it, but no, that's fair. I've seen it, as you suggested, Maryland, one message a day. They love that. West Coast, not so much. They're a little more sophisticated. They just want, based on what they purchased before. And the direct messaging, like you said, is an extension of your brand. So 10 minutes in the store, let's get them a specialized message, get them back to the website, whether it's reading a blog, following on, looking at our Instagram posts, looking at video posts, whatever it might be, just getting them to connect with you, really, right? So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think back to before I created Alpine with my brother a year and a half ago. As a cannabis consumer, I was never like jumping off the couch and grabbing my wallet and running to the store because I got some of these messages. And having created this piece of technology, not to like toot our own horns, but I really do feel like we have given retailers the tools that they need to start to have that better and more elevated experience, not just relying on SMS, going deeper than just, hey, here's all of our deals today. And for the people who love that, the markets that are using those strategies, many times they're using them in places where that's what customers want. But my exposure is on the West Coast, so I had a different type of kind of learning curve there. But I do think that there are great examples of people that are leveraging omni-channel marketing strategies today, and proud to say that we partner with many of those folks, and it's through their feedback that I think we continue to make the platform better, continue to add new tools, and keep innovating.
Wonderful. And then transitioning away from SMS and moving on to loyalty programs, like what have you seen as an effective loyalty program that someone can use as a foundation for the retail store?
Yeah, so loyalty, cannabis today is like the only real adult use market, retail, that you're just getting your license scanned in almost every market in North America that you go into, except for all of Canada, Oregon, Illinois, and Massachusetts. And Washington you can scan, but many folks don't. And it begs the question, like, why are cannabis customers just so okay with giving up their data? Because really, I think they should be asking, like, what am I getting in return? And that's what retailers should go into loyalty programs thinking about is what are we getting from our customers and how are we giving back in exchange for that information. So that's really what loyalty programs are there to kind of answer in my mind. Obviously, they have the goal of creating stickiness and retention. So, looking at loyalty programs, I think the reason why Alpine IQ has been so successful is that it's a market by market change. The rules in every market are different. And so you have to have a software that can accommodate for that. They can handle loyalty rules in California, Oklahoma, Colorado, Massachusetts, Illinois, Michigan, and all of Canada. They're all different rules. So how do you do loyalty? Really, the question depends on what market you're in and what you're able to do. And I think that you can find people being extremely creative with how they're deploying loyalty. I think we've got great customers. Like we just brought on board Lova in Colorado. I think they have a really creative strategy with loyalty to kind of take the standard points and redemption gamification and elevate it a little bit more. And then there's ways that you can run loyalty without actual points at all. And that's more SMS driven, but you still get this really great retention rate. And I think about folks like Cookies, who have done a fantastic job breathing that character and life into their voice that they use outside of the store. So, loyalty on a market by market basis, we always encourage people to push the creative compliance and try to give back. And it's not just giving up a huge liability on discounts on cannabis, but it's also creating better educational events, creating engaging, kind of community events that people can come together and learn about or experience the products together. Those are really the loyalty programs that I think win. If you look at the blue chip world, right? It's not just, hey, you unlock a discount on something every time you earn points. It usually has something more elevated than that. Giveaways, trips, loyalty lotteries is something we encourage. Refer a friend programs are certainly part of that, where companies can incentivize their customers to become paid influencers for their business. So there's quite a bit that you can do, and in every market. That's kind of the what we keep coming back to in the cannabis marketing world, is that you have to have a different strategy in every place because you have different rules and it's an entirely different playbook.
Yeah, that's what keeps it interesting, right? And keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What kind of analytics does Alpine gather, and how can dispensaries put that data to use in their marketing strategies?
Yeah, so we're gathering everything about the customer. So unlike many other people in the space, we pull from point of sale, e-commerce, website. I mean, our idea here is you've got sometimes 12 to 15 different vendors that all have valuable consumer information and data about the customer, whether that's third-party email, POS, loyalty, I mean, you name it. And we really set out to become the kind of integrating wheelhouse that pulls all that data in, allowing the retailer to segment that data however they like, and then use it in any in-house tool that we offer or third party. So when we look at analytics, we look at order insights, which shows you things like total revenue, average checkout value, average days until customer returns, most purchased product, brands, categories with predicted rank using machine learning. We identify predictive analytics like likely to return soon, likely to buy certain product brands or categories. We give an entire suite of tools devoted to your member club or loyalty program ROI. So tracking things like club member average order value, and then comparing that AOV to non-club members looking for a positive deviation. We look at we give people obviously their line of sight on all their loyalty points, outstanding points, redeem points. I mean, all of the data within our system is always at the retailer's fingertips. They can export it anytime they like. They can connect to it, pull it into an S3 or S1 room. I mean, it's complete understanding of your customer, and all of that can be modified to look at specific audiences, not just all tracked users or all users from one store. So there's a lot of analytics that we offer. We do make the reporting easy, and you can have it scheduled to go to key players in the business, whatever cadence people would like. And yeah, I mean, we have great support kind of packages that where our account specialists will lean in, look at the data, and help use that data to inform future marketing strategies. So yeah, quite a bit that we offer on the analytics. It's not like the POS analytics. We don't do transactional analytics at all. And that since it's also very different from most of the tools that Headset and other third-party data aggregators typically offer. And as an added bonus, we don't sell data, never have.
Wonderful.
So, we want to eventually enable people to monetize their data, but we are very careful in how we roll out those tools, because ultimately we really want to serve the end customer and benefit their experience. So we're just trying to be as cautious as possible, managing all the information and making sure we're giving something back.
Well, that's wonderful, Wes. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today and providing all this insight into SMS and Alpine IQ and everything that you're doing in regards to marketing, automation, machine learning. It was a lot. I learned a lot on this, and I'm glad that we got to share that with our audience.
Yeah, it's been too long. We got to catch up again soon.
Sounds good. Well, anything else you'd like to add before we break?
No, if anybody's interested in learning more about Alpine, check us out at alpineiq.com, or you can email me at west@alpineiq.com. Appreciate
Wonderful.
the time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Wes. Take care.
Yep. See ya.
Cheers.